we start running patrols. First thing is they were running SEALORDS in the open waterways and along the canals. To get a SEALORD, they would request it. We had to clear it with the district chief for the Vietnamese and then report it back to sepia, which was Cat Low, that mission was a go. But if you're going, come pick us up. And they did. So we got chief to go with us. When I say chief, I'm talking about the district chief. I'm not talking about a Navy chief. We refer to it as the chief, the district chief, DC. The DC got on the boats with us, and we went up to Alloy again, out Bon Coon, and he began to see what the capabilities were, and we started proposing that we take our troops and go down there, and he was all for it. So we started loading up. The Swifties didn't really like hauling our Vietnamese troops because, unfortunately, remember I said we were a low priority, poorly supplied, poorly led. The Swifties tell me, I have no knowledge of this, but the Swifties tell me if it wasn't locked away, tied down, and secured when the Vietnamese left the boat, it left the boat with them. So any kind of item that wasn't secured on the Swift was gone when our troops left. And I'm not too pleased with that. And frankly, I wasn't aware of it until many, many years later of what was going on that side. So anyway, a good relationship is what I'm trying to tell you, became established, and a professional relationship that was deadly serious business was being conducted. But there was also a personal relationship that I began to develop with those tactical commanders that would come down. The senior lieutenant on the Swifts would report to me when they would come in, and we'd coordinate everything, and I got to know the guys, some of them quite well. So on a certain event, I'll call it, that took place at Anwa Outpost. This was in early February 1969. On January the 29th, we received a new recently trained right out of the training company, or training center, a new RF company, total of 80 men. They had no mortars, they had no machine guns, they had 2 BARs, they had M1 Garands, M2 carbines, and M1 carbines. This was before we had the M16 down to the RF companies. They got there, and the next day they shipped out to relieve the RF company. We already had 2 platoons of them that were out in a construction security detail for this new outpost that was going in at Anwa, up in the village just away from Tom Food Village, which was to push them away from where we were. The outpost was not complete at that time. It was under construction. The first night that the 246 company was in position, they were hit with probing attacks. That was on January 31st. They had 2 men wounded in those probing attacks that night. River, the Ham Long, answered and fired some mortars in there to give them some support. And the night was passed and they held. The next day is February the 1st. We get some intel that we think there's going to be an attack on that outpost. So at that time we have been augmented as a district team with a mobile advisory team. That mobile team had 5 men on it. We moved them into the furthest outpost we had to the east over here in Anthon. This is Anwa up here, and this is BC here. Specifically, this is Rocket Alley. The Swifts know this place as Rocket Alley. That's where PCF 51 was hit with the B-40 rocket. That was Bob Emery's boat, and DC Current in the 96 boat came up. He was on patrol. He came up and pulled the boat off and got Emery out and got the 51 boat back, but we lost Harkemeyer, John Harkemeyer, on the 17th of December 1968. And again, this was what they call B-40 Rocket Alley. And again, this was where the VC would mass. They had control of this area, all of this back in here. So we're putting an outpost here to be the buffer to keep them from getting in to the hamlet and the village right there. February 2nd is a Sunday, I believe, and Sergeant Barnett from the MAP team went out of the outpost in the late afternoon to relieve himself. And on the way back, he slipped off of the paddy dyke and landed bad and twisted up or broke, we didn't know which, his ankle. So we now have an infantry guy that can't walk in an outpost that we have intel is a target for the VC attack. There's also the MAT team captain in the outpost with the sergeant. So back at team headquarters, we have to make a decision. We've got to get both of them out, or if we take Barnett out, we got to get somebody in. And our team sergeant was on leave. So I elected to take, by that time the district's advisor was back off of emergency leave, and he was a air defense artilleryman. I'm the only infantryman down there at that time. So I just told the major, I said, I'm getting my gear. I told the radio operator, flag down a medevac, bring him in here, and we're heading to Anwa. And that's what we did. We caught the chopper, the medevac chopper, and I loaded it. We circled out over Anion because I saw all kinds of stuff going on Anion, that lights and what appeared to be movement. And later we find out that from Bend, the province on the other side of the Cochin, yeah, there's a lot of movement. They're moving up here to attack Anwa. So the next day we get a Hoy John comes in, that's a Chew Hoy, and he tells us there were 60 men that were moving down through here, and he didn't want to go. He figured out there was something going on, and he didn't want to go. He knew they were building and reinforcing for something, and he knew it was going to be an attack on something, but he didn't know what or where, but he didn't want to go. And he came in to us and was telling the Vietnamese, our intel officer, what he knew. What we understood from the NILO, that's the Navy Liaison Officer in Province Headquarters, was that yes, there's been movement, and yes, we've detected a buildup in your area,